whatever phone he wants to use.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to put your opening music on right now because we're still trying to get that. But hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Ms. Bomey's Zone. Nobody's gotten into the chat room just yet. It should start hopping pretty soon. Hopefully, we're going to have our guest here. We're having some, I don't know, technical difficulties, I call it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Good God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
See, I set the entire thing up so it'll go with Google Plus. As easy as pie. Nothing go. And then I can't go on Google Plus. I don't know. Snafu. Hit the brakes. Now what?
Yeah. That's it. What can I say?
There's Smile Money right there. But yeah, hopefully we're gonna be able to get a hold of him. That blew my mind.
I know.
I even did what I did with Jerry. Just stuck the phone to the side of the speaker. It did not work.
Yeah. Crazy.
I'm like, what the hell?
So I'm messing Jingham right now to try to get him to call. So hopefully maybe if we can get him on Eric's phone or something.
Well, he was expecting you to call. He was expecting you to call anyways.
Yeah. So we're just gonna try it via phone and see what happens. But in the meantime, while everybody's waiting to get into the chat room and to talk about the subject tonight with Jim, I want to apologize for the delay. We had some snafus going on here. Bear with us, people. It's growing pains. What can I tell you? But I just want to take a minute to say hi to everybody and to let them know that you can find me on various podcasts. The latest one being iHeart.
You know why she says iHeart like that? Because she hearts the fact that she's the only one of the three that are on there.
I know. And so I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everybody that's out there that has listened in the past, that continues to listen live, that will continue to listen in podcasts. I feel very, very fortunate that you've supported me to this point in time to allow me to get to that platform, because that's not an easy platform to get to.
No,
I don't think.
Not an easy one.
Would it be okay, Jen, if Eric, if he used landline? Yes?
Yeah, call my damn phone.
Okay. All right. So we're still working on that. Sorry about that. So let's just give that a few minutes and we'll just kind of roll with what's going on. Anything going on lately that anybody wants to talk about? Let's see. I don't know where you are in your neck of the woods, but I'll tell you what, the weather, let's talk about the weather for a minute. It has been weird all over the whole United States. We haven't had rain for about 2 going on 3 weeks now. Other places have gotten so much rain that they're flooding. We've got fires all over the place. It's just been crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah, we're getting a bit of it up here too.
Yeah, you guys are too, I saw.
Yep.
So, we're giving this a try.
Well, Smile Money, we haven't got anybody else in the chat room just yet, Smile.
I don't know if this is going to work, so bear with us. We're trying to figure out a way to make sure that we can do this. So, hi, Jim. How are you?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Good. John, can you hear him?
I've got a 15. Where you got the phone at? Where's it at?
Right by our microphone.
Can you turn him up just a little? Do you have the ability to turn the phone up a little bit more?
You got the volume? Could you say something more, Jim? Sorry, we have to put you a little, do a little
test
test
here.
here.
Hear John at all.
Yeah, he will not be able to, Christine, he will not be able to hear me because you
Right.
have headphones on.
Yep. You're not going to be able to hear John, but he's just going to sit back and listen to what the two of us are going to talk about anyway. And he's okay with that. Trust me.
Okay, yeah. Can he hear me, though?
Perfect.
Yes, he can hear you. He can hear you perfect.
Does he want to hear me?
Yes, it's the show.
He says yes. It's the show. So I hope that everybody that's out there, you guys in the chat room, let me know if you can hear Jim too, just to make sure that we're. Can you say something now, Jim? Just so that we can see if anybody in the chat room.
Hello, everybody out there in the chat room. My name's Jim.
There we go. All right. I think we're good. So we're going to try to roll with this. Like I said, I apologize, Jim. We had like a bunch of things that just were not coming together to work. And so sorry this kind of came down to the wire.
Oh, no problem. I was doing last-minute research like last episode, so all good.
Hey, I gave you more time to research. It's all good.
Exactly.
So, okay, I guess we can get started now that everybody can hear, everything's going good. So let's just roll with this for as long as we possibly can. So first of all, Jim, I want to say thank you and welcome back. I have to tell you that everybody really enjoyed the first series that we did about, Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County War. And I had comments saying that they were quite excited to listen to the show tonight. So I think we're kind of onto something here.
That's exciting because I was worried it would be too off of, the guns and focus on the guns, and it would be too much into the weeds and people would be bored with it. So it's really exciting that people liked it.
Yeah.
People were interested in the history and I didn't bore your audience.
And just to let you know, Jim, that I have a chat room up, I can look at it. So for you guys that are in the chat room, thank you for joining us tonight. So far, it looks like we've got Ed, Smile Money, and the Real Cobra Burnout that has joined us. I'm sure that there'll be more filtering in as a little bit more time goes on. So any guys and gals that are in the chat room, feel free to post a question in there too, and I'll pass that along to Jim as we get more into talking about this tonight. I have to start off by saying that this was the first time that I really looked into this piece of it for the Pleasant Valley War. I had heard about it, but, it was just like one of those things that kind of slid under the radar, if you will. So I'm kind of excited to hear what you have to say on the subject. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And why don't you start off, Jim, by giving us a bit of background of who these people were, how they came together, and how kind of this whole issue kind of came into play. Just for people out there that maybe don't have a lot of knowledge or background in this particular topic that we're talking about this evening?
Absolutely. So it kind of does fly under the radar. A lot of people, you say Hatfield and McCoys, everybody knows absolutely what you're talking about.
Right.
You're talking about, the family feud that almost broke out into the Second Civil War. What they don't realize is that there was this family feud that happened in Arizona that delayed a statehood until 1912 that almost happened in 1880. So it delayed statehood along. There was, problems with the Apaches and such, but and some other problems. But it was all this range war that they called it at the time was a big problem and a big reason for delaying our statehood, and it was just seen as, well, they're not civilized. And so what happened was this family, the Grahams, who they originated in Northern Ireland, but in America they originated in Ohio. So they came from Northern Ireland to Ohio in 1851. And there was a whole batch of kids that we don't really need to talk about. But there's two main kind of generals, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. There was Sam and Tom Graham. And Sam was, the head. And then Tom was, I believe he was the youngest son of Samuel. Mm-hmm. And in 1881, Tom and one of his brothers, I believe his name was John, they got claims in the Arizona territory, and they uprooted their families. Both of them had 5 to 7 children each, and like I said, they both had, they had several siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So boom, they up and come out here, and mostly it was at the invite of the Tewksburys, who were a family from California, led by the patriarch, who was John Tewksbury. He went by John D. Tewksbury. For some reason, back in those days, people really liked their middle initial for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there was John D. Tewksbury. He was like the head of the family, and he had one son that was the main general, I guess you would say general in the family, and it was Ed
Mm-hmm.
Tewksbury. Now, Tewksbury is actually the family that my family was allied with. So we were allied with them. Well, my dad's family years and years and years ago, obviously, was allied with them. My mom's family's from Boston, but that's how we got connected to them. So that's how I'm connected to the whole story, and I grew up hearing stories from my grandparents about it, or great-grandparents, sorry. So, yeah, they started off being friends, and they started ranching, and the Grahams were new to it, and they had no idea how to ranch, and the Tewksburys were old hands at it, pretty much. And they were teaching the Grahams pretty much the ins and outs. And being a rancher in the Pleasant Valley of Arizona, in the Tonto Basin, up into the Mogollon Rim, and over into the Prescott area, like at that time, is not an easy place to live.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild country, because it's Indian territory back then. So you're going to have to deal with that. It's an Arizona territory.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real law. If someone just thinks you did something, they're going to climb a tree.
Yeah, Arizona truly was like the last territory, if you will, that was really considered the Wild West back in the day, yeah?
Yeah, and in some places, you might say it still is.
Mm-hmm. No comment.
Even the law considers it the Wild West in some places. But so yeah, it's not an easy place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even by today's standards, you've got vast country that the law is going to have to travel to get to you. Any sort of help is going to have to travel to get to you. So yeah, it's not easy to live. So anyone being out there, you're either going to have to know what you're doing or have good friends. And at first, the Grahams had great friends in the Tewksburys, and then they both started building up big herds. Some of it was not by legal means. They were rustling cattle together and horses, so they were partners in crime. And they were actually going on to nearby Indian reservations and stealing their horses and cattle. And that was actually a big thing at the time that was dealt with ropes and lead. So they were doing that, but they were also doing legitimate means of building up their herds.
Mm-hmm.
And they built up herds. They started hiring cowhands and cowboys. So they started building armies without even being enemies at this point. And then there came this man named James Stinson. He rolled into the Pleasant Valley area with a large herd of cattle,
Mm-hmm.
and almost immediately started accusing both sides of stealing, cattle rustling. And it was probably true. They probably did rustle cattle. Both of them were known cattle and horse rustlers. So
Yeah, there
it
was a lot of
probably
that
was
going
true
on.
to some degree. I'm sorry?
I said there was a lot of that going on for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's again, we like with the Lincoln County War episode, we have to kind of look at it from a different perspective, a different set of morals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stealing is wrong and bad, but so is watching your family go hungry.
Yeah.
Like someone's got 33,000 head of cattle, they're not going to miss one that much.
Right.
But again, different perspective, different morals, and such. So he immediately starts accusing both sides, or both families, of stealing from them, and again, probably true to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But he's accusing them a lot, and the accusations turn to warrants because Stinson's rich. He has, and let me tell you, to this day in that area, because I live in the Pleasant Valley area right now, or what at that time was called the Pleasant Valley area. It's how much law you can afford.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford that much, it sucks to be you. Trust me. So that's kind of how it is up here. It's a lot of. It's not like that everywhere. I'm not trying to say that. There's some fantastic spots, but right now up here, that's what it's like, and it was like that back then. So Stinson was able to get a lot of warrants and a lot of legal harassment on these guys. And there wasn't a lot of proof that they had been stealing.
Yeah.
So it was just seriously Stinson using the legal system to harass them.
Yep.
And it pretty much, the first shots really were Stinson's cowboy, or not Stinson's, but some of Tewksbury's cowboys. Oh no, I'm sorry, I have my notes wrong. Stinson's cowboys rode out to Tewksbury Ranch to serve a warrant, and John Graham was also in the cabin. And there was other family members and possibly other Graham family members as well. A cowboy from the Stinson organization exchanged words with Ed, and eventually they both drew pistols, fired. The Stinson cowboy, he drew first and fired and missed. Tewksbury did not miss, and I believe that's when he hit the man in the throat. No, he just hit the cowboy and his son. So yeah, that and they rode off. So yeah, they testified, and he was convicted of a lesser charge, but was not convicted of anything serious because of John Graham's testimony. So they're still friends at this point.
Right.
But shots have been fired
Mm-hmm.
at Stinson, this third party.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Stinson very upset because, you know, he's got these people that he believes to be stealing his cattle. Maybe they were. They definitely are now. And now they're shooting his cowboys. Stinson was able to get the Grahams to betray them,
Mm-hmm.
the Tewksbury's, for 50 cows.
Yeah.
That's all it cost.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that because when I was doing my research, I didn't come across, you know, what the deal entails, shall we say?
Yeah, it was 50 head of cattle. I don't know if they were steers or if they were females, but yeah, it was 50 head of cattle, and all they had to do was lie and say that they saw the Tewksbury's rebranding Stinson's cows. And in 1884, the Tewksbury's traveled to Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it was the territorial capital. It's about 8-9 miles, or well, it's like 15 miles away from me right now. But it's at the time it was the territorial capital, and they went to go and face the charges.
Mm-hmm.
The judge found out about the deal that the Grahams had made and threw the charges out. And on the way back, one of the elder members of the Tewksbury family fell sick with pneumonia, and shortly after returning home, passed away. Excuse me 1 second.
Yep.
Excuse me. But yeah, he fell sick with pneumonia and passed away.
Yeah.
So the Tewksbury family blamed the Grahams.
Yep.
Because they believe if without the trip, he wouldn't have gotten sick.
Right.
Who knows? You know, he could have gotten sick staying at home.
Before you go any further, Jim, I have a question from the chat room. They want to know if you know how much a cow cost back then. It's a good question.
That is a good question. How much a cow cost? Like,
Because, you know, you're talking about all the cattle and horses and I'm sure sheep and, you know, all the different herds that they had back then. They're just kind of interested if you had any idea.
No, I should have researched that before the show. But give me 1 second. Any other questions from the chat room?
Not that I can see right now. That was just one that we came across. I'm sure we'll probably come across more as we get more into the conversation and, you know, questions come up. But I have to say that from what you told me so far, I find it really interesting that you had two people that kind of came together, developed a friendship, and then along comes a third person, and then like all of a sudden the pot gets stirred, if you will. and things start taking a turn, and not for the good.
Well, see, there's a lot of theories as to why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
See, the Grahams were white, and I couldn't find any exact information as to what their religion was, but they're being from Northern Ireland, I'm guessing Church of England, the Anglican Church, Catholic, or they were a Protestant denomination. Whereas the Tewksbury's were mixed race, half Indian, half white, and they were Mormon. So a lot of books have theorized and I think incorrectly because I don't think this had anything to do with it because they were such good friends for so long leading up to it.
Right.
That the religion or the race thing played into it, and that the Grahams were somehow racist beforehand. I think it was really just greed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just plain and simple. They saw a chance to get rich, and they saw Stinson as their meal ticket, so to speak, and it was their quick trip, and it didn't quite work out. And the Tewksburys were very hurt, and because these guys were their friends and they had helped them, and then you get a big fight on your hands.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I googled it real quick, and it looked like in 1849 cows are going for about $4,000.
Holy cow! No pun intended.
Yeah. But if I'm reading it right, but that's in Wyoming, so I don't know about Arizona in the Arizona territory.
Yeah, because they did have a cattle boom at some point in time, so I'm sure that probably did drive up the price of cattle.
Yeah. So, the Tewksbury is very upset at this death, and they, again, because they felt the charges were complete codswallop, which they were, and they were having to go defend those codswallop charges when Frank took ill. That was the elder family member who passed. So on July 23rd, 1884, John Tewksbury and some of his friends rode out to the Stinson Ranch to continue some planning on an upcoming rodeo. This is something they had been already doing, so it had already been going on. One of the friends' name was Ed Rose. They were met when they first rode up. They were met by the ranch foreman, McCann, I think his name was, and several of his cowboys. And they said, "You guys can't come any further. Only Rose can, because they figured they knew him to be neutral. They figured everything would be okay."
Right.
And they tried the reason. They said, "Hey, dude, we're here to plan a rodeo. We're not gonna get all crazy and etc. And but this is Arizona and everything is different, so that didn't work. The words got heated, and one of the men riding with Tewksbury's drew his pistol and fired at the ranch foreman, who drew his pistol and fired, he was not hit. He drew his gun and shot at the Tewksbury man and hit him in the neck. He survived, and John Tewksbury then fired before getting wounded. He rode off. Then they went to court. They went back to court because at this time the Tewksburys still thought we can handle this in court. And that's the one thing about the Tewksburys is the law was on their side. And there's several times where lawmen ride out on their behalf, and there's one lawman who doesn't, and his name is Frederick Russell Burnham, and we'll talk a little bit about him hopefully later if we have time. He's a really interesting character. He ended up in Rhodesia fighting for England, and he ended up in Mexico. He's a very interesting character. But
sounds like it.
Oh, and he also ended up fighting with Curly Bill Brocious against Wyatt Earp.
Oh gosh.
Yes, and so in this feud he was fighting for the Gram, so he's been on the losing side of a lot of fights.
Didn't pick those battles very good, did he?
Yeah, well, he won. He survived them all.
Yeah.
But so yeah.
So now, tell me, like when I was doing some of the research, and they were going to court, they had to ride quite a ways away, didn't they, to actually get to where the court was located?
Oh, absolutely.
Where their ranch was?
Yes. See, the Grahams were closer to Prescott, and the Tewksburys were closer to, like, the Mogollon Rim, which is near Payson. So if the listeners want to, they can, like, Google Map Arizona or something like that, and they can kind of look at where it is. And for me, I'm near Prescott. For me to drive to Payson would only take me about an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Great.
But to ride a horse,
yeah,
that's a big thing. And then, you've got elderly family members and young kids, and you're going across dangerous country. You've got Apache and Navajo, and you've got Banditos that are coming. I mean, maybe not this far north, but you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, a quick drive.
No. So, and that, I think that's a part of it that, people need to understand that everything was done at a slower pace because you had to, ride to get to your destination by a horse. So, it took a while for things to get resolved. And that's just so crazy to think about it in that context. Because like you say, you get in your car, you drive there, you're there in a couple hours where, probably took them a day or two journey to get there.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, the Grahams were waging their legal battle in Yavapai County,
mm-hmm.
and the Tewksburys lived in Coconino County.
Oh, so we're dealing with two different counties. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, when it was a territory. So it's not like it is now where that's not really that big of a deal. It's like kind of a cross-jurisdictional issue, but it's not, super big of an issue. Back then, it was like a major issue because we weren't even a state.
Yeah.
So it was, you were getting it. And when they would come here and bushwhack somebody and then go back to Coconino or go from Yavapai to Coconino or down to Maricopa and bushwhack somebody and then ride back, the posse could only chase them so far.
That's true too.
Because if you rode into another jurisdiction, you'd have people on you, and they'd be like, I don't care what he did.
Yeah,
take it
not
to the
my
court.
problem. Take it to court.
Yeah,
yeah. And that really was the attitude, I think, for most people. With the exception of the outlaws.
Yeah, exactly. But the Tewksburys, they really tried to take it to the law, and there was one lawman who is really sucked into on the Graham side, and that's, like I said, Frederick Russell Burnham,
mm-hmm.
and he's been quoted as saying, and I don't know the exact quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it real quick. He really only stayed on their side because once the killing started and he started losing friends, it was kind of just, well, now I gotta, get revenge.
Mm-hmm.
It really turned into a vendetta war at that point.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yes, it did. And just to throw this in there too, I was surprised at how long it went on. And I know that we'll get to this too, but one of the shootings that had occurred made the OK Corral look like nothing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
There's
that surprised
I'm sorry?
me.
stepping on you. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Christine.
I said that just surprised me. I didn't realize. I mean, I realized how long it was, but I didn't realize like how many days that this back and forth of fighting went on, and I'm sure we'll get to that too. But that was just like crazy amazing to me.
Yeah, and the Tewksbury Cabin, Flying V Cabin, which they have either the exact cabin or a replica of down at I think they call it the Pioneer Living Village. It's just outside of Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He built it with gun ports in it. So him and his family could shoot from the inside, and he built it with really thick walls.
Holy cow!
It was in your program.
Yeah, he built it to. Well, I think he built it to fight Apaches and Navajo, but it came in really handy for the feud.
Well, and John just told me that it was in the promo that he put up today. So if you guys saw that, it was there.
And it was his original cabin.
The cabin.
And it was his original cabin.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a neat cabin. I can't wait to go down there and visit it. But yeah, another thing that people have to realize is the sheer number of casualties.
Oh.
Like Wikipedia says 35 to 50 killed.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't count the wounded and missing.
Oh yeah, and that's a good point, because I think that most of the research that I came across didn't really touch on that. And by the way, Jim, we have another question maybe that you can answer. Ed in the chat room was wondering which family introduced sheep.
Oh, that was the Tewksbury's.
There's your answer, Ed.
Yep, and if you want to know why cattlemen don't like sheep, it's because the sheep eat all of the grass, and it doesn't grow back, and or it doesn't grow back right, or something such, and the cows don't have nothing.
Yeah, that was. Sorry, I thought somebody had another question, so I was just reading that. But no. Yeah, that was just crazy though. And that was another piece of it that I read about, that they both had, or one of the families had both sheep and cattle. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the Tewksbury's.
Okay.
They introduced sheep. They had leased from the Daggs outfit, which the Daggs outfit ended up being a pretty huge player in the war. They were a principal faction, as Wikipedia says it here, in the fight. And this is another thing that people need to realize about the fight, is there were so many people involved that it's kind of hard to tell you everybody who was involved, because again, we're talking 100 people missing.
Yeah.
We're talking 20 to 30 wounded and 50 killed. I mean, this wasn't just this isn't the Hatfields and McCoys, This is a war. This is intense, and it's kind of really hard to get, because you've got, like I said, you've got the Hash Knife outfit, you got the Daggs outfit, you got the Wells outfit, you've got all of these different companies essentially coming in with rowdy, violent cowboys.
Yep.
Who are all joining sides. Because I think it was the Hash Knife outfit, they were owned by the Aztec Land and Cattle Company, which was based in Arizona and Colorado. and I'm pretty sure they joined the Tewksbury side at first. Let me see. I can't remember. I'm not going to read it all. But they came in with 33,000 head of cattle and 2,000 horses. So obviously the area was like, okay, this is awesome. We're getting a lot of money. There's a lot of cowboys here. This is great. Very quickly that turned.
Oh yeah.
Because they're very, very violent.
Yep.
There's, I think, in the one of the first years they were there was 20-some deaths.
Yeah.
Attributed to them.
Yep.
And in the town, it's in the Holbrook. There was 26 deaths in a place with a population of 250 people.
Yeah, it sounded to me like when I was looking at the research that Holbrook really was put through its paces with all of this, shenanigans, for lack of a better word, that was been going on.
Yeah, I never really recovered either.
And then, didn't they at one point in time, after they kind of got pulled in, for lack of a better word, into this, whole, war thing that was going on with everybody, did they not have a sheriff at that time? And I cannot recall his name at the moment. And they were putting pressure on him to say, you got to do something about this, or like you're going to lose your job.
Perry Owens? Commodore Owens?
Yes, there you go. Commodore, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he is what we call Arizona's sheriff. He's really famous in Arizona. He kind of had a spotty history as a cowboy before he became sheriff. There was an incident where he shot a young Navajo boy, and people are like, "Wait, what's going on here?" Just a young boy. He was cleared of that. The story goes that the young boy was rustling horses or cattle from the land, and back then you could shoot somebody for doing that. So that's what he did. But he after that, he became a lawman, and for the record, or all intents and purposes, he was a fantastic lawman. He trained himself to be. He was really well known for being very accurate at hip shooting with his rifle, his pistol. Being ambidextrous with both of those weapons.
Yes, that was one thing that I found fascinating, is that they said that he wore holsters on both sides and can shoot with both hands. That's kind of unheard of back in the day.
Yeah. And he worked at, and he wasn't the only person in the Pleasant Valley War. The man I mentioned earlier, Frederick Burnham, he too, he carried a Remington 1875 pistol in 4440, and he carried it all through Rhodesia and in Mexico, all through this fight, and he carried it, forever. And he learned how to shoot from, much like Perry Owens, he taught himself to shoot from galloping horseback, left hand, right hand, switching hands, shoot from one hand and switch to the next hand, and just what you need to do to survive in those kind of conditions.
Oh, absolutely.
And these guys went above and beyond, I believe. But, Commodore Owens, he was a, known marksman, very flamboyant. He had long hair, blonde hair. And at the time, that was kind of not really, and he let it, drape down. And if you see the picture of him, there's one real famous picture of him. And he's got what it looks like a single shot Sharps rifle,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like he's got a Schofield Cavalry on his left hip.
Mm-hmm.
He that's how he looked. He all the time. He looked like a Western TV show. Like,
The hair, the hat, the guns, yeah, the whole thing going on there.
yeah, it was a stereotype, and it was like that's where it came from. That dude.
Yeah. That's true.
So yeah, he was a fantastic marksman. He had distinguished himself by fighting warriors, actual warriors, not just the incident I mentioned earlier, but he had distinguished himself in battle against Apache and Navajo warriors.
Right.
He was known, I already said, for the accuracy. Now, there's a shootout that he got into with a character named Andy Blevins. Now, by character, I mean the bad dude who was on the Graham's side. Now, he was a bad guy since he was knee-high to a pig's eye.
Yeah.
And so I'll just run through Blevins real quick.
Yes.
Andy Blevins, he was born in 1861 in Texas. He was killed and buried in Holbrook, Arizona. He went by Cooper in an attempt to hide his criminal past. He was a wrestler.
Yep.
Him and his brothers were known murderers. They were notorious murderers and wrestlers, actually. And he had a warrant for his arrest that had been sitting on the sheriff of Apache County's desk for, I think, a year. But
yeah, it was quite some time.
Yeah. And then Owens gets elected, and it was still there, and he hadn't done anything. And then September 4th rolls around, and he hears that Andy is in town in Holbrook bragging about bushwhacking one of the Tewksbury men, and he says, well, it's time to go serve this warrant. So he dusts it off, and he rides out to Holbrook to see, to talk to the people, and when he, witnesses and say, well, did you see him, and etc. And he's talking to him, and one of the constables who owns a store there says, hey, do you want me to back you up? Owens says no, and I couldn't track down the exact words, but because I have found a few different quotes, but it's something to the effect of, this is going to get bad, and I don't want anyone else getting hurt. And then I found some accounts saying that he cleaned his pistol, which I could not track down the exact one, but I have heard it's a Peacemaker Cavalry, a Schofield Cavalry, or Remington 1875 with the cavalry length barrel, so 7.5-inch barrel.
Yeah.
So I could not find which pistols he carried. But I really tried. I'm sorry, Christine.
No, I did too, and I was like you. I got nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, I found his rifle, and I couldn't tell you how many books. It just said, oh, he cradled his Winchester. It's like, okay, well, which one?
Which one?
Well, I'll tell you in a second. But yeah, he says, I don't want things to get bad. He cleans his pistol. Some accounts have him cleaning his pistol and then buying some ammunition and riding out to the Blevins cabin.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I wasn't able to track down his exact pistols, but his rifle is a Winchester, or was a Winchester, 1876 in 4560. So there you go. That's what it was. I was able to track that down. That took me some reading.
Yes. Yeah, and that's crazy. But he did eventually make it to the house.
Oh yeah,
Cooper's
and
house.
when he rode up, there was 12 people inside.
Okay.
And did you want me to stop?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I didn't realize that there was 12 people. I mean, the things that I read, it just said that there were people in the house, and it focused on like the main ones that.
Yeah. No, yeah, there were 12 people inside, and because they tried trying them, so all these people gave testimony. Well, the ones who survived. Anyways, Owens made he called out and made it known that he had a warrant for Andy Blevins, and Andy replied, my name's Cooper, and he replied, cut the crap, I know who you are, get out here. Andy, or I think it was, at this point, Andy's half-brother, I don't have his name, but he exited the cabin with a rifle shooting at Owens. And Owens returned fire, and he killed Andy and wounded his brother. His brother's name was John.
Right.
So he kills Andy and wounds his brother John, who just started the shooting for no reason. I mean, it was a legal warrant for rustling. A friend that was in the back room, Mosey Roberts or Mose Roberts, something like that. He jumps out a window, and when Owens hears him jump out the window, he runs to where that noise is.
Yep.
Sees the guy standing there. Nobody knows what happens. I wasn't there, but the guy's dead. He dies. He gets shot, and Perry Owens says he had a gun and they shot him. Some people say he wasn't armed. The people there say Roberts wasn't armed. He was just scared by the rounds flying through his bedroom window. But I wasn't there, so I don't know what. I'm sorry?
I said it sounds like he panicked and tried to flood or, fly the scene. Leave the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, or he was trying to flank Owens. Who knows? It could be either or. It could be a guy panicking and trying to run, or a guy snapping into action. And, like I said, I wasn't there, so
No.
I don't know.
But it was just crazy to think of the fact that here's one individual that's like, I got a warrant. I'm going to the house. I'm bringing him. I'm getting him. That's the part that really floored me. It's like, dude, you're going to do what?
Yeah.
Okay.
A man who's a known killer. Him and all of his brothers are known
Right?
notorious killers.
Yeah. I mean, this was a known fact. It wasn't like you had no idea and just thought, oh, I'll just jump in. No.
Yeah. So, they have zero regard for the law, or else, probably wouldn't be in Arizona anyways. It definitely wouldn't be rustlers or killing. He shoots Mose Roberts, and that's the end of the shooting.
Yeah, that pretty much was the end of the shooting. And then...
actually, no, it's not. I forgot. Sam Houston Blevins. Sam, the youngest brother, he's 15 years old. 15-year-old boy.
Right.
Runs out of the house, grabs Andy's pistol, and he fires a few shots at Owens.
Yep.
And you know, a 15-year-old boy with a pistol is still a pistol firing at you. So Owen shoots him, and
Yep.
and he dies a short time later. And you know, it's sad, but you know,
And I
it's a
think
pistol shooting at.
wasn't there some comment made about the fact that you know, after that happened, he wrestled with that, you know, because the boy was only 15 years old. And I don't know, Jim, maybe you can correct me if this isn't correct, but didn't the boy's mom come running out too after him saying, no, don't do that?
Yeah, the mom was yelling, "Sam, stop!" And he was like, "I'll get him," or something to that effect, and picked up the pistol and started shooting. And then once Owens had shot him and he fell, the mother was actually holding him.
Okay.
So he died in his mother's arms.
Okay.
So that's got to be heart-wrenching for a mother.
Well, yeah, you know, and then him seeing that and then having to live with that, you know, visual, I'm sure that was something that was hard for him to deal with, you know, after the fact.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're a tough Arizona lawman, you're still going to be like, oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah.
I did that. You had to, but still,
Mm-hmm.
I did that. I caused that pain.
Right. The other thing, too, that I wanted to touch on is going back to, you know, when you were talking about Cooper bragging that he shot one of the Tewksbury members. Was that correct?
Yeah, they ambushed. I can't remember if it was an actual Tewksbury or if it was just some of their men.
Okay. But they did get ambushed, though, didn't they? Because there was other. Okay, and that's
it was John Tewksbury.
Okay,
yeah.
And that's what kind of I think probably gave the push to say to the sheriff, "You need to do something about this individual."
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying,
and
I don't know.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like this is starting to get out of hand.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Yeah, they just killed John Tewksbury, who, I mean, the Tewksburys, like I said, once they got going, and once they get to the end here, you'll start to realize that they're a force to be reckoned with, and they don't ever forgive.
No.
And they don't forget. And not a one.
and speaking about that whole, you know, feud and fueling the fire and, you know, all these things that kind of came into play, can we touch on the shooting that occurred where they were held up in a house, a cabin or house? I don't recall.
Oh, at Tewksbury's Ranch?
Yes. And did that not go on for 10 days?
Yeah, is that the one where the hogs were eating the bodies because it was going on for so long?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, let's see, that was September, and that was 87, yeah, 1887. I didn't make notes of this one, I'm sorry.
No, I just remember reading some of that when I was doing the research, and while you're looking at your notes, I'll just quickly say, it floored me that people could stay pissed off that long for 10 days. Let's shoot at each other. What the hell? Okay, I'm just saying. That just floored me. Because most of the other things that in the Wild West, if you will, you had your shootouts, it was over and done with. So this one kind of surprised me because it went on so long for 10 days. And yes, the other part was the hogs. I was just like, ish. Sorry.
Yeah, they stopped shooting. They didn't offer a truce, but when Tewksbury's wife came out with a shovel, they stopped shooting and let her bury the dead.
Yeah, and I see now reading that and talking about that and what I came across that there's kind of a disagreement with the like some of the people who are the historians and some of the people that put like the documentaries out and what's on the internet. Some say yes, she came out. She was allowed to bury her dead, which was I believe her husband. Was that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was John's wife.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then others were saying no, that didn't happen because she was like 8-9 months pregnant. There was no way that she's gonna pick up a shovel and start digging a grave. So I don't know like what truly was factual there, but kind of more to the point, what was the decision or what was the determining factor that made them stop? I mean, they were doing this for 10 days and then all of a sudden we're done. So like, how do they
They
come
probably
to that
just ran
conclusion?
out of ammo.
Is that what it was? Just no more ammo, gotta go home?
Probably, yeah. Wives calling, come home.
Yeah.
Well, the Honks thing, that's another thing that I've read that a lot of historians dispute. I can't remember what book it's in, but it's a book that I think was written in the 60s, actually.
Mhm.
But it's about the feud. And that is another thing that's disputed, is whether or not the hogs would come in to feed even on a bunch of dead bodies
Yeah.
with the gunfire. And I go hog hunting, and
Mhm.
I can tell you, once you shoot, like, they're not coming back for a while. Like,
Yeah.
unless you've got a really bad problem, you know. But yeah, so that's one thing that I kind of understand, like the hogs and the 8-month pregnant woman digging a hole in the ground up here is kind of hard.
Mhm.
It's mostly like a soft dust layer,
Mhm.
and then underneath that it's rocks,
Rock.
and then it's granite
Mhm.
and mountain, and that's what it's like up here. So
Yeah.
it's not real like conducive to anybody digging a hole, let
No.
alone an 8-month-old or 8 months pregnant woman.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I found that piece of it interesting that there was a lot of dispute when it came to that part of the story / facts.
yeah, no, it's there probably was a shootout at the Tewksbury's Ranch. I know there was actually.
Mhm.
There was his ranch was actually involved in what's known as we won't get into it here because that has nothing to do with the war, but Battle of Big Dry Wash. It was a battle during the United States 3rd Cavalry Regiment and 6th Cavalry Regiment during Indian Wars, the Apache Wars. Sorry. So it's yeah. There have been shootouts at the Tewksbury's Ranch before, so
Right. Yeah.
But one other thing is that I wanted to touch on real quick before we get to the end, because I realize that time's creeping up on us. The involvement of Tom Horn. A lot of people like to bring this up. Tom Horn was an assassin in the Old West, and he took part in a lot of range wars, and he did a lot of stuff, and I'm sure we'll probably have an episode on him at some point. But I really don't think he was involved with this at all, because the only mention of him being involved with Pleasant Valley
Mhm.
is his own words in his autobiography, saying, "Oh, some boys came down from Pleasant Valley in early April, saying that there was some stuff to be done or whatever. I don't know. So I don't remember the exact words, but some yieldy time talk about let's go up in Pleasant Valley and kill some people and get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And there are so many disappearances and killings that are not attributed to anybody
Yeah.
that it's kind of hard to say whether or not he did it.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yep, there was a lot of people that disappeared, and there was a lot of concern about the disappearances, for sure.
Oh yeah, lots of. I mean, it's a common phrase up here. I know where the mine shafts are. It only needs to be 30 feet deep.
Yep.
So yeah, you be wary of people who know the bad country up here.
Yeah. Don't go hiking
Yeah,
with them.
I'm sorry?
I said, don't go hiking with them. Don't be too go out and come back.
yeah, take your pistol with you. Oh, especially where I live. Oh my gosh, the hill people. Just like hills have eyes, just no radiation.
Gotcha.
So yeah, let's just jump right into the end. And like I said, this could be a multi-part series because there's a lot of. This is like an overly condensed version of this, and there's a lot of people we can really get into. But the way it ends is there's only one Graham left. Most of his friends, family, and allies are dead or fled the state or territory.
Yeah.
They're gone. They left, and Tom is here, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going to stay in Prescott. I'm getting out of the valley, Pleasant Valley."
Mm-hmm.
So he leaves Prescott, and he heads down to Tempe, which is in modern day Maricopa County.
Okay.
It's Tempe is a suburb of Phoenix.
Yeah.
And on August 2nd, 1892, the last remaining member of the Graham family, and it is my belief it was they're the family who set this whole thing in motion.
Yes.
And I'm not saying he deserved what he got or any of that. I'm just saying they kind of did start this in a bit of a way. You know, did the Tewksbury's overreact? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was back then. He was. I'm sorry. Yeah. He heard the words, "Your day is done, Tom," and then he fell dead.
Now, who shot him?
I'm sorry?
And who shot him?
Well, legally speaking, nobody. There were, Ed Tewksbury was tried. The first was a mistrial. The second was a hung jury. And during, I believe it was the second trial, Tom's wife, Tom Graham's wife, attempted to kill Edwin Tewksbury.
Oh, wow.
But her gun got caught on her dress or her bonnet or in her purse or something. And guards were able to stop her and get her out of there. Excuse me. And so that didn't work. And then once it came down to it, the actual hearing, despite over 100 witnesses, it was ruled that Ed Tewksbury wasn't there. And Edwin Tewksbury died in Globe, Arizona, which Globe it was a great place when the mine was open, but it isn't anymore. Globe, Arizona in April of 1904. And just before he passed, he told his stepmother detailed confession of his murder of Tom Graham, of how him and another man, I don't think he ever named him.
Mm-hmm.
If he did, it's lost to history. Ambushed him.
Wow.
And that was how the Pleasant Valley War ended. And the Pleasant Valley War and the ongoing Apache Wars, and like I said earlier, problems with banditos and such, was a huge opposition to us becoming a state, and legislators from back east saw us as too uncivilized to be a full state. And a number of books have been written about the war, and as well as the long-term effects it's had on us. And there's a new one coming out in August, and it's real interesting to see that Arizona is a very different place than other people, and it's almost exclusively traced back to this, and partly because of our Apache Wars and the Navajo Wars and such. But this is a big reason why we don't trust law enforcement so much. We're very weary of it, I should say. Not we don't trust it.
Well, I can
trust
see.
his word,
It's the hairy eye. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for telling that story, and anybody that's out there listening that wants to learn more about it, I definitely encourage you to go out there, because there is documentaries that you can find out there, books that you can find out there, information, on the internet as well. It was very interesting. My takeaway from it was how crazy the whole thing was. I mean, here you had two people that came together that were friends, then enter a third person, and then that person just kind of wreaked havoc. And then before you know it, everybody was like mad at each other and bullets started flying. It's crazy when you think about it in the scheme of things. And I can understand it. I mean, I see where, both sides were coming from. But it's just crazy that one, it happened, and two, it went on that long. So definitely, if you're interested, check that out. I found it pretty fascinating for the stuff that I came across when I was doing the research. If you're into that kind of thing.
I really appreciate you having me back on. I love talking about the Pleasant Valley War. It's just one of my passions.
Yeah.
As general is.
Speaking along that line, the promo today, and I apologize to the person that put the comment in there because I cannot recall your name or your name of your channel on YouTube. But he wanted to make a suggestion to talk about a war that happened in Utah. So that's something that I'd like to look into, and maybe we can have a discussion about that in the future.
Absolutely. You don't remember the name of the war?
Something Mountain something. I just had glanced at it before I came on to do the show, and then we kind of got sidetracked with all the snafus that we were having, so...
I'm getting it from you right now.
John's going to get it from you right now.
I'm getting it for you right now.
He's looking it up for me.
Right,
yeah.
It was Daniel.
I kind of got sidetracked earlier. After Stinson kind of came in and lit the fire, he just left.
Yeah.
He dissolved his herd and left.
That's it, too. That's the other part that killed me. It's like you came in, you stirred up some shit, and then you left. Just to go back to what I was previously saying, it was called the Mountain Meadows Massacre, and the comment or suggestion request came from Daniel M.
Sweet. Mountain Meadows Massacre?
Yes.
Awesome. I'll get on that tonight.
Yeah. So I thought maybe next month when we do another talk or have continue the series about the Wild West, that might be a good topic to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I'll look into it.
Thank you, John, for that. So that's, I think, it. I didn't see any other questions that occurred during the live chat, but I want to say thank you to everybody that is in the live chat, and I'm just going to run that down really quick here. I see I said Ed before, but it looks like we've got Bearded CB82 that joined us. Douglas Walter and Johnny Watson also came in. So that was great. We had a lot of participation in the chat room as you were talking during the course of the evening there, Jim.
Oh, that's good.
And that's about
They
it.
weren't making fun of me.
No, I didn't see any of that going on.
What's this idiot saying?
But they were having quite the conversation. So I think that's it. Unless there's anything else that you want to say, last thoughts, last comments.
No. Just I had a blast again. It was fantastic, and thank you, and congratulations with all your success, and to you and John, and
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
you guys are crushing it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, it's I'm glad, but wow, it's just still trying to wrap my head around it.
I'll keep riding it.
Yeah, you ride the wave as long as you can.
Exactly.
And that's it. So I guess we'll wrap this show up for tonight. We had a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it. There was a couple things again that you came up with that I just went, oh, I didn't realize. So even I too have learned something.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So that's it. Next month we'll be back with Jim again, and I think we'll take up that topic that we just previously discussed a few minutes back in our discussion here. And that's pretty much it. So I hope everybody has a good night and a good week ahead of them. And once again, Jim, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Push in the button.
Okay, he's pushing the button.
So we're clear?
Are we clear, John?
You're clear.
Okay, now we're clear.
Oh.